How's it going, Critter Family? Hope you all are doing well. Today we are covering, in a way, two videos in one. And I'm not talking about two videos as in my own video and his. I'm going to be covering two different subjects in this one video. So the first half, if you want to skip to, I'll put a time point right around here, a timestamp right there, where you can skip to where I actually get to the reaction of I am reacting to Dale McKlusky reacting to me. And he says, Taylor Wachowski, K9 Tate, trusting, in parentheses, a permissive bribery-based approach, flipping the script. He's not flipping the script on anything because I'm not a permissive bribery-based trainer. I am a scientific-based trainer, a positive reinforcement-based trainer. I use kindness and understanding of animals versus choke chains and just gobbledygook that this guy just all sorts of nonsense that this guy spews, which is really hard to understand. So the first half, I'm going to explain how I would walk a dog that seemingly seems stubborn. Somebody had a question about, they have, I think, a 5-month-old Shiba Inu, I think maybe 4-month-old, 16 weeks puppy, and they're having trouble getting the dog to walk or getting the puppy to walk. So I want to answer that question here because I think it's been a little while since I've received that question. I completely forgot about it, so my apologies. But I want to answer it here. So, seeing as how I talk about in this video how to walk a fearful dog, I might be going over the same thing in the video, and we'll see that here in a little bit. But for now, I might do things differently now than I would have, 3 or 4 years ago when this video was filmed, because this video here is... I guess at the time when he looked at this, I had 1.31 thousand subscribers. Now I have almost 1,800 subscribers, which I'm so grateful for everybody. But anyway, let me get to the question. So they asked, how do I walk my fearful or they might have used the word stubborn Shiba? So when it comes to stubbornness, I rarely ever call a dog stubborn because a dog really most of the time is not being stubborn. Either they don't understand what you want of them, or they are, they actually understand what you want and they're choosing not to do it anyway. In the case of a puppy, 16 weeks on and above, or even below, a younger puppy than that, that's still pretty young. You're 4 months old, you're a small little guy in a big world, and things can be very intimidating and scary to you. So what I do is if I have a puppy, and a lot of times Shibas are known to just stop in their tracks and not want to move forward, especially as puppies, I will sit there with them. I do a lot of stand time with puppies, and stand time means I just stand there and I let them take in the world. They're not going to be pulling on me in any one direction. Even if they want to go home, we're not going to be pulling to go home. We're going to walk nicely to go home. I'm going to use the method that I use with every dog when pulling on leash, pressure and release, which I'll have that in the cards up here so you can see what I mean. But when it comes to a nervous puppy, I try to keep in mind what they're thinking of. I try to put myself in their paws. So if you have a Shiba puppy that's 4 or 5 months old and they suddenly stop or they don't want to walk further than a block, and they stop and they lay down and they don't want to move, instead of dragging them, instead of trying to coax them with treats, a lot of times I don't use treats on my walk. I can use a stick with peanut butter at the end of it to get them to feel more comfortable walking. But what I would do is I would just sit there. I would sit there with them and I would allow them to take in the environment. And I want to give them, I'm on their time, not my time. So, if I'm in a hurry, then I take them to go potty in the yard. Or if you're in an apartment, then take them to go potty in the little potty area that you have. I'm sure somewhere you can find a potty area for them. But I'm just going to, if we're on a walk and they stop, I'm just going to stand there with them. Heck, I might even sit down on the sidewalk with them. I'm just going to, make sure I'm not in anybody's way, but I'm going to sit there and allow them to take in the world and move on their own free will at their own pace. I don't want to force them forward. I don't want to scare them or make them feel like I don't want to drag them or anything like that. I might be able to, if I can coax them to move forward with treats, great, but then I don't want to have to rely on that. So that's why I like to just, okay, you want to sit here? I'll sit here with you. Let's look at the world. Let's take in these scary noises. There could be a seagull up above you. There could be a hawk roaring, making their little hawky noises. Which, fun fact, the noise that people think that bald eagles make is actually that of, I believe, a red-tailed hawk. The screeching noise they make is actually a hawk noise, and they dub it over an eagle to make it sound like, I guess an eagle sound more majestic, whatever that may be, for whatever reason. But I want to put myself in the puppy's paws. Put yourself at 4 or 5 inches off the ground, or even 6 or 7 inches off the ground. That's about as tall as your head is. Or if you're laying on your belly and you're looking at the world, it's a big world out there. There's lots of things that are smelly that can be intimidating. There's lots of things that are, scary that can be intimidating. Like a trash can is really big. Other dogs are really big. People are really big. Cars driving by, planes in the air, planes, trains, and automobiles. Oh my! There's lots of scary stuff out there that can be scary for your puppy. So I like to just stand there with them. And if they want to move forward, I'll move forward with them. If they want to stop, I'll just stand there with them, and we'll go whenever they're ready. And I'll be there to support them. And I'll tell them when they're not when they're not trying to pull like a crazy man to go home. I'll reward them, and I'll just tell them, hey, you're doing a good job, baby. Good boy, good girl, good puppy. No matter what age they are. And if I can reward them with a treat and they want to take it, terrific. If they don't want to take it, then they're over threshold and they're a little bit too nervous for that. So then I will move them. I'll just stand there with them. And if we need to, then I'll move closer to home just a little bit. We'll walk towards home a little bit. My guess is that your puppy may move better walking home than away from home, but that's just my assumption. With Adonis, when he was a baby, he did that, and he would do better walking home than he did walking away from home. And also, that's a lot of exercise for a puppy. Although puppies have played, they can play all day long. That's different than just walking and exercising. Exercising can be boring for a puppy until they grow up and they learn to use their nose and their other senses, and they're more excited about going in the outside world because they've been pent up in the house all day. So that's what I would do when walking a fearful puppy or a fearful dog. That's what I would do. Is just walk when they want to walk where they want to walk, and just stand there if they want to stay there. If they want to move forward, terrific. Now, if you do have a dog that is being stubborn, and I can say that Adonis was like that a couple of times, he did it, I mean, rarely, but he still did it quite a few times in his lifetime, because he lived to be 12 years old, and even up until 12 years old, he would sometimes just lay down on the walk. Now, when he's older, you can think of that as, is he in pain? Does he have a joint issue? Or is it too hot? Are his feet hot? Is he too hot? Is he just tired and he just doesn't feel like it? Do his hips hurt? Is the light too bright for him? Does he have a headache? Does he have a belly ache? You can think of all these things as to, okay, maybe why my older dog might not want to continue walking so much. You can also think of it as boredom. If you walk the same walk as we did, we walked the same block, every day. We went to the park every day in the morning. And so he would get to sniff new sniffs. And then in the afternoon and the evening, we would walk the same block, which is a good little mile-long walk. But even so, and that was enough for him and enough for me as well. But if you walk the same walk every day, or the same block every day, it's going to get boring. It could get boring for your dog. Some dogs may never get bored of it. Your dog may say, you know what, I'm tired of doing this. I've walked here 1,000 times. Let's go somewhere else. Let's go somewhere different. Let's walk a different path. And so sometimes I would do that. Or sometimes if he just laid down and I'm like, hey, we're almost home. And the time he didn't want to go home, he wanted to continue walking. And I'm like, no, dude, it's really hot. We got to go inside. He would just lay there and wanted to fry in the sun and sit in the grass. Then sometimes I would sit in the grass with him for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then I would say, okay, let's go. And then I would pick him up and then move him a couple feet, and then we would go. Or if I really needed to, then I would kind of trick him. I would say, okay, we're going to go the direction you want to go. I would take a few paces that way. He would get up, he would walk that way, and then I would turn around right away and be like, gotcha, sucker. And then we would go in the direction towards home. And sometimes that worked. Sometimes he laid down again. So then with him, what worked was I would pick him up and carry him a few paces, and his 40-pound butt didn't like that. He's a 40-pound sack of potatoes as I'm carrying him. He didn't like that. So then I'd put him down and he would be like, okay, we'll walk home. So that was just what I did with him. I don't suggest that a lot of people may not be able to pick up their dog. But there's different ways to kind of handle it. And that's just kind of how I handled it in the moment. I didn't have to use treats. I didn't have to use what this guy here would call bribery. I didn't have to use any of that. But, you know, you do what you got to do. But when you have a fearful dog or you have a young dog that doesn't really want to walk, I like to just go at their pace. And even if we're sitting there for 5 minutes, then we're sitting there for 5 minutes. You know, and maybe that might be our walk. We sit there for 5 minutes, then I decide, okay, let's go home. We walk home. Okay, great. We made it half a block. It took us 15 minutes to get there. That's okay. You know, that was our walk. Our puppy got their mental stimulation. Our fearful dog got their mental stimulation, regardless of whatever age they are. They got that mental stimulation. They got to sit there. They got to take in the world. They got to, you know, they're building their confidence, and that's the important part. So I hope that helps you a bit, you know, when answering your question about how to walk a stubborn puppy. And now we're going to be reacting to Mr. Dale McKlusky reacting to me. Okay, so let's get started.
Hi, welcome. My name is Dale McKlusky. On this video, it's part of my series called Flipping the Script. I'm trying to respond by way of a trainer out there, goes by social media name K9 Tay off of YouTube. And I'm going to be doing a breakdown by way of this permissive, bribery based approach. And
I'm not
again, talk
permissive.
about
I'm not bribery based. That is just a label that he is making. He is more of a compulsion trainer, in my opinion, just like this is his opinion that I'm bribery based. I have the opinion that he, based on how I have seen him train, is a compulsion trainer. Compulsion means yank and crank, choke chains, you do what I say because I said it, you know, master dog relationship, not even balanced. You know, he's not even balanced, where I think most balanced trainers are more compulsion than balanced. But balanced trainers basically mean that they use treats, they use prong collars, they use e-collars, they use positive reinforcement, they use negative reinforcement, all this, you know, everything you can think of, everything in all the 4 quadrants of training. Whereas compulsion trainers only use punishment. I try to use mainly positive reinforcement and very little punishment. And my punishment is far different than his punishment. His punishment is drag you on the choke chain, pop you on the choke chain. It could be I smack you with the towel. It could be whatever else. You know, or as they call it, a bonker, trying to be cute. A rolled up towel and you smack your dog on the head with it as hard as you can. And that's supposed to be okay. Whereas my corrections are, you know, unless there's a dog fight, of course I'm going to raise my voice. I'm going to say, hey, knock it off. You know, kind of, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to be getting loud and all that. But we're not talking about dog fights. We're talking about regular corrections. If a dog does not sit when I ask them to sit, I don't say no. I don't say ah. I don't say anything else. I just wait for them to sit. When they do, I reward them. I don't care how long it takes. Or I might remind them with the hand signal. I don't repeat the cue. I might remind them with the hand signal, or I might remind them with a quick lure, and then I'll say, okay, we need to work on this. You're not quite ready to just have the verbal lure, or I'm sorry, not the verbal lure. You're not ready to just have the verbal cue, meaning sit, and no hand signal, because dogs respond better to your body language than they do your voice. So, just saying all that to say, I'm not permissive. I'm not bribery based. I am science based. I am positive reinforcement. That is not bribery.
trainers out there, such as even Robert Hines, very similar. If you look at how he engages a relationship problem between dogs and owners, in terms of, again, a permissive.
Is he saying I'm similar to Robert Hines? Because Robert Hines is a crazy man. Robert Hines has covered me more than Dale McKlusky has. I think more than anybody else has. Robert Hines is a crazy dude who thinks I'm crazy. He thinks that I'm bribery based. He may have said that he himself is similar to Robert Hines, and I might be wrong there. But if he thinks I'm similar to Robert Hines, he is more similar to Robert Hines, because Robert Hines does not use treats. He's not bribery based. He's nothing like that. I may have misheard him there, but him and Robert Hines are like, you know, 2 peas in a pod.
Encounter with dogs. I'm going to hear the same themes here as I talk through this video. Title is How to Walk a Fearful Dog. Okay, and I talk about the issue about a relationship problem once a dog has gained control in the relationship. It brings a stress load onto a dog. And
Okay. So he's going to be talking about the really old school and uneducated here, and he's written books, I believe. He's going to be talking about the relationship or the position a dog has in the relationship between the dog and the human. That is nonsense. The dog does not try to be in charge. I talk, even in this video and in every video, when I talk about relationship with a dog, that we are a partnership. We are equal. Am I in charge? Yes, because I'm the human and they're the animal. And because if I actually was permissive and I let them do whatever the hell they wanted to, they would be dead or they would be a menace to society. So, yes, of course, I have to be in control, and I control every aspect of my dog's life: when they eat, where they eat, what they eat, how much they eat, if they eat at all, when they get to go to the bathroom, if they get to go to the bathroom, if they have to sleep in a crate overnight, if they have to stay in a crate for 10, 12 plus hours in a day. Which I'm not a crate person. My dog was free. My Shiba, at this time, Adonis was alive, and so was Hermes, little boys. I miss him. Little Adonis there and little little tiny Hermes right there. But I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place. But the relationship with us, Adonis and I were a team. I mean, hell, Hermes was, could be in charge of us for all I care. My gecko Pinky will truly destroy us all, and I don't care. Adonis and I were a partnership, and that put no strain on him. That put no strain on me. At times I would let him choose what he wanted to do, and at times I had to choose for him for his safety or well being. Just because you're not pack master or pack leader or alpha or any of this outdated nonsense does not put any strain on your dog. Your dog is not constantly trying to be in charge of you. Can they get frustrated? Sure. I would get frustrated too. It's like a kid that never gets to grow up. Your dog is the equivalent of, I don't know, maybe a 5-year-old, 4 or 5-year-old with mental state, or a 6-month-old wolf pup, because wolves become much smarter than a dog when they grow up. They have to. They have survival instincts. They have a whole different life they need to live than a dog who has everything taken care of for them, not by their own choice, unless they're a wild dog, and that's a whole different can of worms. But when it comes to, we're not even a minute in here, and I've already probably been talking for, who knows how long. 20 minutes. But when it comes to your relationship with your dog, they're not constantly trying to be in charge of you. Anyone who says that is uneducated, outdated, or they have very little education that's been outdated for the last 20 years or 25 years, and they rely on, I've been a trainer for X amount of years, 20, 30, 50, 60, 70 years. I've been working with dogs. I doubt you've been working with dogs since you were 3 years old. For those elderly folks out there that are like, oh no, I'm a bit long in the tooth, but I've been working dogs longer than you've been, alive, or I've been riding horses since before I was born. Okay, all right, whatever.
so the reactions are such that it will offer up a fearful type of a reaction based again on stress on the dog. But the
So let me
solution,
try to explain what he's saying, because a lot of times he doesn't make sense. What I think he's saying is, if your dog thinks that they have to be in charge, that will make them a fearful dog because it puts stress on the dog. That's what I hear him saying.
okay, in terms of your role, in terms of, again, talk about leadership, talk about the core ingredients, influence and control, how they come through to start to not just take the stress off the dog, but start to change the perceptions of a dog the right way. And again, I encourage you to watch the videos on my YouTube channel. You'll see me working with dogs that are under tremendous stress and how.
How? What kind of stress? I mean, I'm confused already about what he's trying to say. He says, again this, again that. Again what? I don't understand what you're trying to say, dude. You need to learn to speak, plain penguin, please. For us lesser folks out here that don't understand all the fancy, gibberish that you use. So I don't know what I mean, it sounds like he's saying that if your dog doesn't feel like if your dog feels like they need to be in charge, or you're like me where you use positive reinforcement, your dog is going to be fighting you for that lead role, and it's going to put a tremendous amount of stress on them. Or if they can't be in charge, it's going to put stress on them. That's what I hear him saying. But you let me know. Let me know what you think he's saying in the comments below. I could be totally wrong.
To move forward in terms of following a path of nature. And again, I talk about this is where the human problem, in terms of how we react and respond to certain reactions, gets us in trouble because again, you have to apply context. So when you again react in a more of an emotional way in terms of dogs that, again, I talked about a situation in Canada. The dog got hit by a vehicle, injured. Dog became, aggressive, based again on the fact the owners did not let it go. Okay, they started to change how they're interacting, putting emotion on the dog, and create this type of scenario where they start looking at it as though, well, there must have been something that happened, which it did, but they didn't understand that they changed from that moment moving forward. They
So he's saying that because a dog got hit by a car, they then, the people never let it go. The dog got hit by the car. And they changed in thinking, maybe always feeling sorry for the dog. That's what I hear him saying, is that they're always feeling sorry for the dog, and they start babying the dog, and the dog becomes aggressive. The dog could have been aggressive because it was in pain. Even years after being hit by a car, you can be in pain. The dog could be aggressive because it's fearful, because we don't know how the people are interacting. Maybe the people think that they're trying to help the dog, but they're constantly in their face. I had a client the other day that said that their dog, their puppy, not even 6 months old, was resource guarding a plant. It pulled the plant out of the pot, and it was growling and trying to snap at them. He went over to had treat to put right under her nose as she's growling with the plant in her mouth, and she went over and took a chunk out of his finger. To me, that screams, you don't know how to work with an aggressive dog. And he didn't blame the dog, bless his heart. He doesn't, he just says, hey, I just need help with this dog. But to me, that tells me you do not put your fingers or your hands right under a dog's nose, right in their face when they're already resource guarding a plant. You trade them in a different way. I have videos on my channel about, resource guarding. If you just type in my channel, resource guarding, you'll see how I would do it. But I don't ever tell people to put your hand right under your dog's nose when because that's way too close to their face. That's way too close to the mouth and the teeth, where they're going to bite you because they think you're physically trying to take the plant, even if you have a treat. That's not the time when you want to teach drop. That's not when you teach drop or you try to practice drop. If your dog is not resource guarding and they have a ball in their mouth or they have something else, then yes, I'll take a treat. I'll put it under their nose and I'll teach them, drop. And when they let go of the ball to get the treat, I tell them drop. They drop it. They get the reward. Bing, bang, boom. When they're resource guarding, I'm going to do something totally different. I'm going to toss a treat away from the dog. So they drop the treat, or they drop the whatever it is in their mouth. They run to get the treat. I pick up the plant. There you go. If they take the plant with them to get the treat, then I'll toss another one. And I'm going to keep tossing them away from the dog. So that way, once they finally drop the plant to get the treat, I'm going to toss another one. And they run after the treat. That gives them space between the object they're guarding and the treat they're getting. I don't know how I got on the subject. Oh, I guess because he was talking about the dog became aggressive after being hit by a car. There could be a number of reasons, and it's not because the people use positive reinforcement or because the people changed and are maybe more permissive or more passive or because they're loving of the dog. I mean, maybe. I don't know. It depends.
wouldn't let it go. They were putting, high emotion onto their dog. Once they realized that nature deals with things differently, okay, based again on the social aspect of that connection, the dog right away started to change for the better, and the relationship got back on track here.
So I'm assuming he's saying about nature, because there's nothing really natural about a dog. I mean, dogs do have instincts from their ancestors, but those ancestors are 15 to 20,000 years behind them. There's been that much time of evolution that the dogs have changed. That's why they look the way they do and they act the way they do. So there's still natural instincts for a dog. A dog is an animal, but they're not, they're not as natural as nature. They're not like nature intended for them to be. They are human made. So when he talks about them going back to nature, he's probably talking about them not using as much positive reinforcement or not being as gushy on the dog and maybe being more stern with the dog, or being more aggressive with the dog, because that's how people see nature as. They see wolves in captivity fighting over a piece of meat, and they automatically assume, oh, that's how nature is supposed to be. You're supposed to be aggressive. You're supposed to be alpha. The alpha is aggressive and blah 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 blah. That's not true. Most times in wolf packs, they all split it up so everyone can eat equally. If anyone is starving, it doesn't help the pack. So a lot of times they let the puppies and the younger ones eat first, and then the older ones will eat afterwards. But anyway, depending on his kind of nature, I think that he's talking about the people probably are just being more aggressive, and the dog stopped being aggressive because the dog became fearful. And it's kind of backwards. I'm saying backwards. I'm saying the opposite of what he's saying.
very quickly. Now here, this is the same thing. When you encounter these permissive bribery-based dog trainers,
I'm not a
understand they're trying
bribery
to
based
find
dog trainer. I'm going to say it every time you say it. I'm not bribery based. I'm positive reinforcement based.
a way to, move beyond these issues, but it's totally superficial. I understand it lacks any depth. The whole thing about they're trying to gain agreeableness. They're trying to gain a way to make the dog,
Gain
better,
trust.
but it's all based again on control. The dog actually maintaining control, which offers up at times.
The dog can absolutely have control. I don't care. As long as they're doing what I want them to do, they can think that they're in control. I give the dog choice, yes. Unlike, how would he walk a fearful dog? He would just drag their ass down the street until finally they give in, and their feet are bloody from dragging on the floor, and he finally, they would start walking with him, and he would say, see, I gained control. Good for you. I like to teach a dog and give them the option. As I said in the beginning of this video, for those of you who didn't hear it, if I have a fearful puppy or a fearful dog, and they want to sit there, I'm going to stand there with them and let them sit as long as they want until they decide to move forward. That might not be everybody's, cup of tea. Fine, then move on, do your own way, find your own way. That's how I would do it. I'm not going to be doing that before work. 5 minutes before work, and we got to go for a walk. I'm going to work my way up. We train. We take the time it takes to train walks, and otherwise, if I had to go to work, then I would just take them for a potty break. But I would train them to walk on lead, and that's how I would do it. I would stand there if they want to sit. If they want to move forward, we move forward. If they want to stop again, we'll stop.
An image of a balanced dog. Understand that this permissive bribery-based connection or way of engagement will appear to work at times, but
it works all the time, dude. It works all the time. I have so much success, long term, far more than I would say that you do, and I have more trust in the dog too.
What you'll see is what you'll find, like always, you'll find that you're never truly going to fix the dog. The dog, you're going to have problems. Nothing's actually changed. But again,
how would you know? You never tried it. You never done it before. And what I teach is management. The name of my company is Taze Canine Management, or I actually renamed it. I rebranded to the Shiba way, because you will learn to think like a Shiba. You're gonna learn the Shiba way. The Shiba way is you do it on my time, as a dog. Also, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, that I'm on the dog's time, not my time.
The problem here is that because people enter into this in terms of they don't want to change how they think, they don't want to, start to bring a dog under a level of intentional control and influence.
They don't want to be cruel. I'm going to say it for him, what he's not saying. I have control of my dogs. You better believe it, buddy. I have control of my animals, but it's not in the way of being aggressive or abusive or unnecessarily cruel. And people who don't want to be cruel can absolutely have the same control and a greater bond with their pet than he will ever have.
They think that somehow they can get around this, and this sets people up to be totally deceived.
Not at all.
By way, again, of this way of engagement. So I'm going to play some
people
of this
are
video.
not deceived by using positive reinforcement. If people feel like they are deceived, either the trainer is not equipped, or really, most of the time, the owners just don't want to listen to it, and they don't want to put the time in that it takes. It takes time to train an animal. You don't get this free pass with an animal that they're automatically going to be trained. It's going to take time. You're going to have to start with treats. or some way to positively reinforce your dog, and your dog gets to decide what is positively reinforcing, and then you have to fade away from that, and then you have to replace that with a real life reward where your dog still gets rewarded for some type of behavior. Otherwise, there's no point to it. If you're, your dog is gonna, you think like a Shiba, the Shiba way. Train the Shiba way, where they demand respect, they demand some kind of reward and reinforcement in some way. Otherwise, get a Labrador, get a German Shepherd, get a dog that's easy to control, that loves you just for pets. That's not the way I train.
Now, this person, Kenine Tay, you go in, and I had a hard time actually finding the actual video, and here you're not even seeing one of her actually interacting with the dog. The most of her stuff is just these permissive bribery-based, breakdown videos, attempting to again take advantage of the confusion in the dog training world.
I'm attempting to take no advantage of anybody. You're the one who's confusing people. I mean, people don't even understand what you're trying to say. This is the most clear video I've ever seen of his where I can actually, I think I understand the majority of what he's saying. But he acts like it's just common, like plain penguin. He acts like it's just common sense what he's saying. There's not a lot of videos of me, now I have a playlist, but there's not a lot of videos of me working with dogs because I don't have to show you the proof for you to believe me. If you have to see the proof is in the pudding, then that's on you. But I understand, you don't have to go through war to understand how a good strategy works. Now, if you go through war, you have experiences in that, but that doesn't mean that just because you read you get a degree in understanding how war works, that doesn't mean that you're any less valid than the people who have actually gone through war and gone through the trenches and experienced it that way, because they may have gone through and have never learned anything about how it works, how strategies work, and how to control this and that. And I don't know why I chose that as an example, but I just did. But you can understand how dogs work by getting a degree in it and having very little experience working with them, but it still doesn't invalidate what you understand about dogs. Just because I don't have videos doesn't mean I'm not working with dogs daily, weekly. I'm always working with them. And hopefully when I do get a new puppy, I plan, whenever that is, that I get a new puppy, I plan to record the whole process of raising them. And hopefully that will shut some people up. And even then, they're always going to have something to say that, oh, you didn't do this. You got an easy dog. I'm getting an American Akita. Okay, that's the bigger version of the Shiba Inu, which I love both breeds. But people are always going to start to nitpick that and say, oh, well, you just got an easy dog. Oh, you didn't get a truly aggressive dog. Okay, whatever.
But when you do actually find a video of her interacting with dogs, it's totally bribery
No, it's not.
based.
No, it's positive reinforcement based.
And again, this is what you're seeing out there with some of these trainers in the dog training world. So again, I'll play some of this video. Talk about this whole issue about the fearful dog. Again, to help people understand that when you engage this way, you're setting yourself up for major problems.
How's it going, doggy people? I hope you all are doing well. Today I'm going to answer a question that I got in my comments, which is a very good question about how to get a dog that's in a shelter situation, a very nervous dog, how to get them used to going out on leash without being very fearful. This dog, from what I've heard, is the only way you can get them out for a walk is to corner them, and they shut down, and then that's the way you can get the leash.
Now I'll talk about this whole thing about, this is the thing about dealing with once a dog is under a lot of stress, has gained a high level of control. That's why they're in the shelter probably in the first place.
All right, sorry, I'll let him finish his thought.
It's about, again, there's some accommodation. Okay, when I talk about, recognizing, okay, the current state of the relationship in terms of where you're at. And so it's always about maximizing agreeableness, but
what are you talking about?
Over into the side, okay, of permissive engagement and engaging by way of bribery. Okay, understand that that's not going to be your ultimate solution. It's not going to.
I don't know what he's talking about. I really don't understand what he's trying to say. So what I'm going to say is, I'm going to answer myself in the video from the question. is that you don't corner the dog just to put a leash on. If it's that stressful to get the dog out for a walk, then don't walk the dog. Get the dog used to human interaction. They have a spot where they can go potty in their kennel. They have an indoor and an outdoor section. They're going to go potty in their kennel anyway. Some dogs, wait to go, to be walked to go to the bathroom. But in this case, if the dog is that stressful that you have to corner them to get them out for a walk, then I would not work on not reinforcing, you're practicing this behavior, and you're actually using negative reinforcement. You are reinforcing it negatively and teaching this dog the only way you go out is when I corner you and put a slip leash on you and I trap you. And no wonder the dog doesn't want to go for a walk, because you're cornering them. Don't corner them. Just go in there and get them used to having the leash put on them. Don't try to trap them. Get them used to being around a human. I know people think, oh, we need to get the dogs out for a walk. We need to exercise them. Yes, you can mentally exercise a dog and tire them out that way. It's kind of a double-edged sword, but I would work more on gaining the dog's trust. There's some dogs that never get outside because of the way they act inside the kennel. They never get to go outside, and that makes them even more crazy. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is gaining the dog's trust so that way they see walking as a positive thing. It may be the second you put the leash on, the dog is fine. They know, okay, I'm going for a walk. But the process of getting there and this is not a very, this is not a very pretty, stopping point, but the point of getting there is the negative thing. So I would work on gaining the dog's trust to where the dog actively wants to participate in being leashed up, where you can teach that, where they get leashed up and then we go for the walk, and that's rewarding. If it were me and if I ran that kennel or if I were volunteering, that's what I would work on. Is at least with me as a person, they can learn to trust me first before we start putting on leashes and going out for walks. You can trust me to put this on and we're not going to have to corner you.
Fix the relationship. It may get the dog to come into agreement. And see, this is the deceptive nature of this type of
How is it
approach.
deceptive?
Initially, you may get the dog to be agreeable, to connect, but it's not the fix. Understand, it doesn't.
How is it not the fix? Are you going to answer that, Mr. Sir? How is this possibly not the fix? Gaining trust of a dog, I'm saying you don't have to corner the dog. I'm saying you want to get trust of the dog to go outside for a walk. But how is that not the fix? I don't see a negative to it. Maybe you could let me know in the comments below.
Relationship. Just like, again, talk about the selfish child example. Sure, you can get a selfish child to play nice with their peers or to share in terms of the themes I talk about, bribery, accommodation, negotiation, to those themes.
The dog is not a selfish child. That's an entirely different concept. That's not even relatable in this sense. In this situation, the dog is fearful and doesn't want to be taken out to the shelter, out of their kennel. They feel safe in their kennel. When people have to corner them to get a leash on them, to drag them outside to go for a walk, and then the dog is fine. That is not the dog being selfish. That to me sounds like the humans are being selfish and trying to do what they think is right for the dog, but really what the dog needs is to just be left alone and taught to trust humans. That doesn't mean you need to leave them alone 24/7. I mean, don't go cornering them just to get them outside of the kennel. A lot of people might disagree with me and say, well, you still need to get the dog. They need to get out for a walk, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I might run things differently than you do.
As a parent, you can get moments of agreeableness to happen, but it doesn't mean you're fixing anything. Okay, it's just that you're getting through a situation or you're creating a moment of agreeableness, but you have to understand, you have to apply those, you have to look at the actual context of those themes and reconcile those to the relationship itself. Okay, you have to line this stuff up. So here, when you talk about cornering a dog, you wouldn't actually engage in a way. You may even initially use a treat. Okay, I talk about this whole issue about management versus change. You may actually connect in a more of just a calm way to get the dog to come into agreement. But the point is to actually fix the relationship. You need to shift gears. Okay, those core ingredients, they need to come in.
Okay, so how would you shift gears? I want to know what he would do in this case. how are you supposed to? I'm genuinely confused about how else you could shift gears. I'm shifting gears in what I see as the most positive way possible for the dog's sake. I'm not dragging the dog out. Okay, dog, you want to stay here? You can stay here. I'm going to get you used to, I'm going to teach you and hopefully accomplish my goal of teaching you that you can trust me, and when I come in that you want to put the leash on because it means good things happen. I'm not so passive that I'm going to say, oh, you don't want to go for a walk? Okay, I won't take you for a walk. You can stay in here. It's been 3 months since you've seen the outside, the daylight outside, but I'm not going to take you for a walk if you don't want to go for a walk. I'm not talking about that.
Okay, to actually fix the relationship. So when you're dealing with a dog, say that is, at this level, then yes, there is some accommodation because you don't want to get bitten. Okay, understand that you want to keep it safe, but you have to understand the difference here between, at the point of connection and the issuable change itself. But most trainers, like this particular trainer here, that's not their way. Understand, that's not their default setting. It's not about those core ingredients coming in. They're not approaching it as a type of intervention through a kind of intentional interaction based method. That's not their approach.
What is he talking about? Does anybody understand what he's saying? Am I just stupid? I mean, I know I'm sure I am, I'm duller than the average crayon in the box, okay? But am I crazy? Does he make sense to other people? I want to genuinely know.
Their whole foundation is permissiveness, bribery,
Not at all.
and deception.
Not at all. It is not deception. I don't know why he keeps saying, how am I possibly being deceptive when I'm trying to gain trust of the dog so I can help them in the future? I can desensitize them to anything and everything. Even Allie thinks I'm crazy because I mean, she doesn't think I'm crazy, but she's looking at me like, what's going on, Mom? Why are you getting so worked up? But yes, hi, baby girl. Did you hear your name? Yes, hi, baby. Yes, you had bonked that. I'm gonna mute it. You're gonna mute the mic. And come over here. Are you gonna lay in my lap? I don't see how I'm being deceptive when I'm trying to help the dog long term so that way they can get out of the shelter and they can go for average walks and they can go for regular walks and not be fearful. I'm trying to not be selfish and let the dog do whatever they want. I think to be selfish would be to just not try to move the dog because you're allowing the dog to decide what they want to do. I don't know.
They're deceiving themselves. Okay, and this is why you get dogs out there and you start to bring those core ingredients come in certain interactions. You see everything fall to pieces.
They're taken out after that. I don't know if they're drug out or they have to be carried out or whatnot. But
So again, it's ridiculous. All these permissive trainers, and this is why it's almost like they can't talk normal. Okay, they can't.
Okay, the guy who talks gibberish says I can't talk normal. Sorry, Ellie's in the squeakies. So let me get this straight. The guy who talks absolute gibberish says that I don't make sense, that I'm talking nonsense. When he talks about, like, compare an elephant to a squirrel that has the circumference of the moon, surrounded by a plate of spaghetti by the spaghetti monster who has stars on his face, and therefore birds bloom into flowers on the 9th of August because of the power of the gnomes. I mean, like, it's essentially he's just talking absolute nonsense, and I have no idea whatever the heck he's talking about, and he wants to say that I don't make sense.
Always about dragging out or violence or it's always this over the top language. It's like
because that's what people like you do. All right, you need to go over here. I know, I love you. Go over here on the bed. Come on. Because that is the most common thing I see, especially in shelters. People act like we're their last resort. If we didn't use force, this dog would be dead right now. Okay.
happens when you're way over on one side of the equation in this
Like
permissive type of idea of things. Pay attention to how they package things up through their language.
Like him. Look at how him and balanced trainers. I am trying to be honest. I talk honestly about times when I've made mistakes. I talk about my mistakes, about times when I could do things differently. Like in this video, I talk about something where I might do something differently now than I did back then. And this was probably, what, 3 years ago?
It's not normal. Okay, it's not normal in the sense that
No,
it's all
you're not normal. You are clearly not the norm. And I'm not going to talk about normal as in what's normal and abnormal. You're not, the way he speaks is not common. He does not make sense. He's not speaking plainly where most people can understand. Maybe I'm doing the same thing. If people don't understand me, then I can change the way that I talk so I can actually make sense so people can understand the message I'm trying to get across.
always over the top language to try to label, describe something.
I speak the truth.
To me, that just sounds like a very bad situation for a lot of reasons. One, that the people have to corner the dog, and of course, mostly for the dog. The dog, in the words of, I believe, the trainer that's working with this dog, or a trainer, I don't know if it's the trainer, they're all volunteers. The trainer says eventually the dog will associate the walk as something good, which can happen. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. That's not a given. So
what's the difference between a service?
Nothing against the trainer. This is just my opinion. I've worked with many, many dogs that are very, fearful, feral dogs who have been raised in a family. They've just never been on a leash before, and they freak out. So when I work with a dog that's this fearful, the first thing I want to do is gain their trust. Okay.
It's the same thing I said, but here's the thing too.
No, it's not. You didn't say that at all. You shut up, dude. You did not say at all once to gain the dog's trust. You did not say that at all. Unless if I missed it, then please, if anybody else heard it, leave the timestamp in the comments below, and I will take back what I said. But I did not hear him say specifically the words "gain the dog's trust." I did not hear that.
Social media, Canine Tay, you'll see, a full transparency with how great this permissive bribery-based ideology works. Got lots to say about all these other individual balanced dog trainers to go through it all, but good luck finding video content where they bring this out into the light, out into the open, so that you can, again, put the picture to the test, put the relationship.
You don't have to put the picture or the relationship to the test. Either believe me or don't. I don't care. I would like for you to believe me so you can practice. I would like for more people to practice this, but I'm not going to be controlling everybody. I can't control what everybody does. Everybody has the right to their own beliefs, just like I do, just like everybody has the right to have criticism. Speaking of FSE, free spirit of question, how everybody hates how somebody has, God forbid somebody has criticism about it. He has the right to criticize me. I'm not going to try and take his video down. I don't care. I don't care if anybody talks about me and my big blabbering mouth. I'm trying to spread a message for those who want to listen. Clearly, he doesn't want to listen. He has, his filtered glasses on, and you can say that I have my filtered glasses on. But I don't see how gaining a dog's trust or doing what I am practicing and preaching, I don't see how that can possibly be a negative for the dog. Because I'm trying to help them so that way they can live a good, happy life with the average person who wants to do what they imagine is the doggy's life. They go out to the park, they go out to the beach, they go for walks, they go to the cafe.
You always see this.
First, by trying to get this dog out for a walk, and you can only catch it by cornering it, and then it shuts down, you put the leash on, you're working way too fast. In my opinion, don't worry about the walk right now. You're not ready for a walk.
Okay, so I'm still speaking the same thing now that I was then.
If you get it out for a walk, and say you get it outside, and okay, they may act fine, or they may freak out at the nearest noise, a plastic bag, a garbage truck, somebody on a bicycle or a car going by, and then they freak out there. And although they're on a leash and they're walking, they have so much more to worry about outside. And what if they get away? You haven't built that trust with them. So
It's always the same thing about, trust, right?
It's not trust with quotation marks. It is actual trust. Nothing that you ever have with your own dog or any other animal you work with.
And again, I keep bring up Robert Hines', trust method, right? permissive.
I don't know anything about Robert Hines or what he does. I don't understand what he talks about either. He doesn't use treats. He doesn't use this or that. I don't know how he trains because I don't understand how he talks, just like I don't understand how you talk. So don't be comparing me to Robert Hines. Or do. I don't care.
Trust, context of trust.
But
Based
Robert Hines certainly does not use positive reinforcement. I can guarantee that.
again on the current state of the relationship. Understand that one of these things that these trainers never arrive at, or they don't connect dots that way in terms of actually reconciling what behavior issues even represent. Okay, based again on the relationship itself, based again on how a dog's decision-making process influence and govern. I talk about control manifests through a dog's state of mind. It's an expressed state. And so you even get this issue about, again, going over the selfish child example, as the child becomes more and more selfish, what happens?
Dogs are not selfish children. That is not even the same comparison. That doesn't make any sense.
Behavioral issues escalate.
Okay, if you're going to compare it to children, then I would say if you have a fearful child, okay, use myself as example. Because I was a very, very shy kid. As a kid, I'm even shy now. People may not believe it. When I'm not talking about dogs, you don't know I exist. I'm not a social butterfly. I'm a fly on the wall, a ghost on the wall. You don't know I exist. Unless we're talking about animals, and then I open my big mouth. As a kid, if I were fearful, and I was fearful on the first day of kindergarten, we were 5 minutes late. My parents were 5 minutes late to dropping me off. And I had a full-on panic attack because I was so afraid to go in there when the rest of the class was there and have all those eyes staring at me. And in my school, they had you pull a little slip, a colored slip. They had like green, blue, orange, red, orange, yellow, red, or something like that. For misbehaving, you would go pull a slip. And then if you got to red, then that meant that you were in big, big, big trouble. And then the slips would restart the next day. So I was so nervous about having to go in there, pull that slip, and when you were late or you were in trouble, they had you sit in a chair in the like the back of the room, and everybody else was sitting on the floor. So they tried to make a spectacle out of you being late to try to punish you at that young age, to teach you not to be late, even though it's not even the child's problem, because the parents are the ones who are responsible for getting the kid up for school in the morning. I'm not blaming my parents on this, by the way. I'm just saying that whole idea was just crazy. And so I had a panic attack, and my mom, got out and she said, "Hey, it's going to be okay." And she walked me into class, and, she walked me in, and I went over, and I didn't have to pull the slip because she was there, and it was the first day and they were trying to be easy on us. But I did go sit in that chair. They had me sit in the chair, which is just dumb. I'm rolling my eyes to that. And because of that, I was so nervous thinking about that I was in trouble, that I missed what we were supposed to do for the first assignment of that class. So my mother either could have said, "Oh, you're nervous, you don't have to go into class," and could have rewarded that behavior for a child, if we're talking about children, and taken me back home, and we could have tried again the next day. Or she could have said, "You get in there and you go sit down, you go do what you're going to do." Or the third option, she walked me and said, "Hey, it's going to be okay." She said, "It's going to be okay." We walked in together. I had the confidence of going in with my mom, first day of kindergarten, and I still sat in the chair. And I remember that to this day, because of if I had been able to just go sit with those regular kids, on the floor, I probably wouldn't have remembered that memory of being traumatic for me. Apparently it's traumatic enough that I remember it, 30 years later, that I had to go sit in the chair and everybody stared at me, and that's all I thought about that whole time, because I was so young and so shy. I had a panic attack, a full-on panic attack about being late to school the first day of kindergarten. My mother didn't force me. She went with me. She could have forced me. She could have said, "No, this behavior, is rewarded by you cry and you freak out and you panic, and you don't have to do something like a dog in a shelter." She could force me in there, like you forcing a dog out of a shelter. Or she could say, "Hey, trust me. You trust me. I'm your mom. We have a good good relationship with each other, and I'm going to walk you in and help you come into this class together, so you gain that confidence." The next day I was able to go there just fine, and every day after that I was totally fine. So if you're going to talk about children, then that is kind of a comparison you can use for children. But dogs are not selfish children. But dogs can still learn the same way. The dog can learn that they're nervous, and when they freak out, people leave them alone. They can learn to trust people when you do it right, or they can learn that they are, no matter what they do, it's learned helplessness and they are forced out of the shelter.
Understand, you're just tying it in. But this whole thing about trust, gaining trust, but current state of the relationship. How, if you're trying to gain trust, but the dog's already gained high level control in the relationship, what does that even mean? Well, it's permissive, right? Trust, tying it in a way that you're in a weak position.
Oh, okay. So because the dog trusts me, I'm weak. Okay. Whatever you say, dude. And I'm the wimpiest, weakest person on the planet then.
Okay, dog's going to be agreeable, but the dog's already in control.
I don't care if the dog's in control. The dog should be in control, especially a fearful dog, because when you force them, you either cause learned helplessness or guess what? You make them aggressive. They say they're trying to go into flight. They don't want to go into fight. And the 5 F's of dog training are fight, flight, fiddle, faint, and freeze. If they try everything else and then fight is last on their list, then they're going to start fighting you.
This is how this works. This is how these trainers, build bridges. Not the right way.
Okay, so he says that he knows the right way, and I'm clearly the wrong way. I am not saying I am the right and only way. I've always said that. If I haven't ever said it clear enough, let me say it for the people in the back. I am not the only way to train. The way I train is not the only way to train. I am not the one-all be-all. I am not the Bible of dog training. I am just sharing with you how I train, the experiences I've had, and how I have learned over the years of working with dogs for 10 and a half years professionally and 12 and a half years with my Shiba. Or, well, not quite 12 and a half, but 12 years with my Shiba.
It doesn't get fixed, because they start to project their emotions into it that way. I talk about the ability to reconcile the response to the relationship. This is absent.
For me, first thing I do is I go in the kennel, I just sit down, I'm sideways to the dog. So I'm not going to sit facing the dog, so I would sit sideways, the dog is to my left or to my right, and I just kind of ignore it and just toss some treats. I'm going to get the dog used to me moving my hands, moving a little bit at a time, strategic desensitization, which means you have timing, you have feel. Timing, obviously meaning...
Now understand, same thing here. There's nothing wrong. If I'm dealing with a really aggressive dog, I'm not going to, even if I'm working with board trainers, you'll see, if I'm working with very aggressive dogs,
We're not talking about an aggressive dog right now. We're talking about a fearful dog, not an aggressive dog.
I'm kind of loosey-goosey for the first couple of days, okay? I'm not, those core marines that talk about influence and control, they're not coming in a certain way, in a way it's going to create high challenge. Okay, it's like an awareness as to where you're at in the relationship. It'd be like, again, going back to the selfish child example, it'd be like a parent going in and they're very, say, annoyed about, a selfish child's like highly invested in the video game system. And they're going in, they're frustrated, and they're upset, and they're just going in and ripping the video game system out of the wall. Okay, you shouldn't do that. You're not going to do that.
Okay, that is entirely different. You can do that to a selfish child, and you can have your child can learn a number of things. But that's not the same thing with a dog. I don't know how he compares that to a child playing video games and you go and rip it out of the wall, even though it was the parent's fault for raising the child to be selfish in the first place. That's just the way I see it. Or how can you compare that to a dog going into a fearful dog's kennel and slowly desensitizing them to the movement of your hand so you don't make yourself too big so you don't scare them? We're not talking about an aggressive dog here. We're talking about a fearful dog. Even with an aggressive dog, I'm not going in their kennel first. I'm not that brave. If I have an aggressive dog that's going to be lunging at the fence, I'll sit outside of the fence. I'll continue to sit sideways or I'll have my back to them, but I'm not going to be sitting there inside with them, desensitizing them. That might be too much for them, and it might not be safe.
Because there has to be a working through as well. You have to.
That's what I'm doing by desensitizing the dog, by going inside with a fearful dog, not an aggressive dog, and moving my hands and teaching them that I can move my hands and I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to hit you. It's not anything scary by me just moving a leash around. I have a video. I'm going to put that up in the cards here of how I got very fearful dogs used to having a leash around. I was trying to leash them and get them into a kennel. I'm going to put that right up here in the cards.
And it's a journey. So, even if I'm dealing with a very aggressive dog, I'm aware I'm gonna be very intentional with not,
But how would you be with a fearful dog is what I want to know. Would you be the same way with a fearful dog, or are you going to take advantage of a fearful dog because a fearful dog is not going to fight back? You'll be a wuss, when it comes to an aggressive dog because they're not afraid to fight back and tell you, hey, back the fuck off. With a fearful dog, you're going to be the one who's going to take control because you take advantage of a fearful animal.
with how I'm connecting that way. So it is going to be more just leveled out, very leveled out. But also have an awareness too, and this is where this isn't part of, say, Canine Tay or any of these other bribery-based permissive trainers, even with a lot of balanced dog trainers, where it ties into a proper process where you understand the core ingredients, how they have to come in a line, the integrity of that methodology, how it has to come together and maintain that integrity for a period of time.
Okay, so I've been going on at this for an hour. He used maybe a couple of seconds worth of my video, and he's spent 20 minutes talking about that. I don't know how far he's going to get. Maybe he plays a little bit more, but he plays a few seconds worth of my video. I think I played a little bit more of his. I've played 14 minutes worth of his 20-minute video. So he played a couple of seconds of mine. He's just nitpicking through my video, and he wants to talk about me for 20 minutes. That's fine. He can do that. I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying that I've gone on long enough that he nitpicked. Like, I watched his whole video, or I'm not his whole video. I've watched through most of his video and listened to what he has to say, and he just nitpicked a few seconds out of my 9-minute video to talk about and go on a rant. You could say that's what I do, and sometimes I do. I try to do more than a few seconds at a time. I try to watch through the video unless it's just really, really sad or really, really aggressive, then I just can't do it. But I've gone on long enough. That was my reaction. So the first half of this video, I talked about how to walk a fearful dog, how to, and it's not in this video, the video that we're watching, I actually explained how to walk a fearful / stubborn dog. And hopefully that helped. So to the person who asked the question, sorry it took me so long to get back to you. Hopefully this has helped. Let me know what you all think, what you think of Dale McKlusky, what you think of me, what do you think of this video. If there's anything that you want to see, then feel free to let me know in the comments below. Until then, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Thank you, members. Thank you, Patreon supporters. Thank you, subscribers, non-subscribers. If you're not subscribed, feel free to, If you're not subscribed, feel free to subscribe. Like or dislike the comment, like or dislike the video, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Thanks again for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope you all are doing well. Go say how to do to your little critters. Say how to do for me. Give them some kind of love and they appreciate. And until next time, practice peace, patience, and positivity.